again, like it gave me a different start button this time, but I think we are live, so let's see. Yep, we are live, guys. This is Stone Guy 223. Appreciate everybody tuning in this evening. Um, from my left, we've got the Yankee Marshal.
Hello.
Next to him, I'll just let you introduce yourself. I don't know what you want to be referred to now, but some of you guys may recognize the voice, so take it away.
Wait, who, me?
Yep.
Oh, hey, I'm Dan Jones, host of the Dan Jones Show and proprietor of microwavecheese.com.
Right on, right on. I didn't know if it was still Dan Jones or what, but
Yeah. Danimal Jones, Dan Jones, doesn't matter. I just shortened it because, you know, Danimal's hard to say.
Right on. Next to him, we got Moon Food.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then we got Nathan's Armory.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, all right, guys. So this is going to be a little change of pace for the channel. Something we haven't really talked about. I don't think at all. I definitely don't think on my channel, but
I have on mine.
Yeah, I know you have on yours a little bit. So.
Although I do want to say I did not know this was the topic when I came in here tonight.
Well, that's all right. I'm glad you did. It worked out well because, and I may end up changing the title, but I thought "Let's Get Real" is a good title, and the topic tonight is going to be religion, and you know, and we're going to leave out the abortion and rape. We're just going to get just religion tonight.
Well, what fun is religion if you can't use it to justify a rape and demonize abortion?
Right. So, but realistically, I just wanted to talk a little bit about religion, whether you're practicing, whether you're Baptist, Catholic, whatnot, agnostic, atheist. And Dan Jones over there had done a video that I found pretty interesting. I thought he was being a complete smartass at first, but after speaking with him, realized he was absolutely serious. And if you know Dan, it's kind of hard to read him or to tell when he's being sarcastic or not. So, but turns out he's real serious, and he seems like he's pretty passionate about his stance as a, what do you call it, agnostic atheist? Is that right? Is that what you call yourself there, Dan?
I think he disappeared.
Yeah, I guess we lost him. Oh, Dan, can you hear us? Oh well, we'll come back to him. So anyway,
I guess first thing we should do is go through and on this panel say, what are we? Are we Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, atheist, agnostic?
Exactly. There you go. That was, you read my mind. So we'll start with you, Yankee. For those of you that don't know.
Well, anybody who watches my channel should know by now I am an atheist.
Okay. And I think we got Dan back. Can you hear us, Dan?
Yeah, unfortunately I got to skate. But atheist, agnostic atheist in the sense that I don't know for sure, but I choose unbelief until proven otherwise. But thank you for the invite. I am so sorry, but I do have to run. I will catch you on the flip side, gentlemen.
Right on.
Sorry, man.
No worries.
All right, you guys take it easy.
Yep. Then Moon, what you got going on over there?
I was baptized Catholic, but ever since I can remember, I've been an atheist to the bone.
Really? All right. Well, damn, this might not be as interesting of a chat as I thought. Nathan, maybe our saving grace here.
Oh, that is a horrible way to start a chat.
I guess I'm willing to bet he's one of those crazy Midwest cultist religions.
No. I'm the other crazy one. I'm a Southern Baptist Convention guy.
Oh, snake handler.
All right. Well, maybe okay.
I'm really Methodist, but I was brought into the baptism, the Baptist way of doing things, but I was raised Methodist.
Well, that's cool. At least we've got some things. There's other links out there for, hopefully you guys will be filtering in.
Methodists are just like Baptists that smoke pot.
Yeah, I was about to say,
the only difference between
the difference is the Methodists are way more into bake sales. It's like the #1 thing.
That's what I'm telling you. That pot, they want some brownies.
Yeah.
Well, you know the only difference between a Baptist and a Methodist or a Baptist and a Catholic is, right? well, Baptists go to church, or Catholics go to church to confess their sins, and Baptists go to church to confess other people's sins.
Ah, there you go.
Ba-da-bum. Anyway, I don't know, the whole thing that got me thinking about this, just with religion in general, and with ISIS and some of the Muslim extremists and just religious zealots as a whole. You don't, and as far as it relates to guns, you see a lot of it kind of goes hand in hand. It's like guns and God, and it seems like anytime you're at these pro-gun rallies, it inevitably turns into a sermon of of preaching religion and preaching. I don't know how they somehow make it cross over, but I'm sure you guys can attest to the fact that with these pro-gun rallies, we've talked about it in the past, it seems like they always turn into some sort of church service, and the fact of the matter is, I think, and just with the small cross section we have here on the show tonight, or on the panel, is, I'm also, I guess, what would be considered an agnostic. I was raised Catholic, but I'm not a practicing Catholic. I do kind of think there's something out there. I don't know if it's necessarily a God in the conventional sense of the word. So I just choose not to, conform or practice any said religion.
Maybe you're a Pastafarian.
What is that? Is that?
That's the people who worship the great spaghetti monster in the sky.
Oh shit!
They don't have the 10 Commandments. They have the 10 we rather you wouldn't. They're pretty entertaining.
Well, and I think the thing about it is that I think as long as we're all living, relatively.
Oh great, the crazy Baptists are here now. There's never
right.
nothing
Well,
more.
if you say, and I know I've said this before, and there's people that be like, well, how can you say you base your life on the 10 Commandments, but then say you're not religious? And it's like, it's not really basing my life on it, but you gotta admit the 10 Commandments do have an overall message.
One of the things that all successful
morality.
Well, one of the things that all successful religions did is that they took basic moral constructs and built them into their tenets. If you look at the tenets of all the major religions, they have that "you shall not kill unless God tells you to." Because they all kind of have it "unless God tells you to" on them. Because if you read the books that they support, there's always cases where God tells you which people to kill. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not want money. You shall not want things on earth. Because things that make you easier to control and that conform to the basic moralities. Because people make this mistaken assumption that morality is a construction of religion. No, morality existed long before any of the modern religions. Morality is an evolutionary trait. If you did not assist the other members of your pack, your group, your tribe, if you did not help them, if you didn't share with them, assist them, protect them, then you died as a species. So the only species that survive intelligent species are ones that have a certain level of morality. Even apes have a certain level of morality. Wolves have a certain level of morality. They won't kill their own pack members even when fighting for, a woman or something.
Well, I think that's a good point. Is like you said, and that's what I was alluding to, was the fact that if you live your life on a basic set of moral values, I don't think you have to pray to a God to get those values across, or to be able to raise your children with good values. I think to me, religion is a security blanket. It's a fallacy that people use. It's a feel good. If they can, because it's not tangible, and they say it's all based on faith, and if you can, like trick your mind into thinking there's some freaking higher power in the sky that you can pray to, and he's going to answer your prayers and literally alter the world as we live in. If that makes you feel better, more power to you.
Well, to me,
But
the three bad aspects of religion throughout time, and there's three primary aspects of it. And this is not the only aspect, because there are people that make positive things from religion. There are positive aspects of religion, but here's three major aspects of religion. It originally was created to explain things that they couldn't explain. It explained why the sun went through the sky, why the moon came from the ocean, etc. at night. And then it evolved into a way to control the people. It became the people in power could use religion to control the people that weren't in power, because there was 1,000 serfs for every lord, so they had to have some way to control them. And then it evolved into something that people just don't want to let go of, because when you let go of it, you have to admit that I'm going to die soon, and then it's over.
well, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. It's and I'm not condemning anybody for their beliefs. If that's what you choose to believe, and that makes you live your life, more with more morality, or with a better like if you're okay with it. Like if I'm trying to think of the word here as I talk, but I can't. It's not coming to me. But if you believing in a God gives you a sense of peace, then more power to you. To me, I choose not to believe in that fallacy. I choose to believe what I can see, touch, and feel, and so that's kind of my stance on it.
Can I just throw something out here?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to get a debate going here. So
Okay, so here it is. Whether I'm a Christian or a Muslim, if I'm really reading what the Quran or the Bible says, I should be nice to everyone. Even if they attack me or punch me, I should turn the other cheek. I should give most of my money away to poor. I should not envy other people's stuff. I should live a very plain, calm life. I should spend a lot of my spare time praying to my Lord and being completely nice. Now, if you've ever met people who are actually like that, most people in our world consider them kookballs. Even the people inside religious things don't want those type of people around. They don't want your Mother Teresa's around, or your Gandhis, or your really devout type people. Even Jesus was nailed to a cross and persecuted because what he said went against what the people in power wanted. So I think one of the biggest problems with religion in general is that people use it as a power structure to control other people, and they bastardize what it is really meant to do and say, and it jades people like you who grew up Catholic, and now you're like, dude, this is so messed up, because I've looked at the Catholic religion. It's wackadoodle compared to what I learned.
The biggest thing is not only Catholics, but the biggest thing is the biggest thing that I have, the biggest question I had growing up is the fact of, and I'm sure you can relate to this being a Southern Baptist or Methodist, is the fact that as we grew up especially in the South, that you're told if you don't, well, for one, in Catholics, if you're not baptized, then you go to hell. That's like a main tenet. It's like you have to be baptized or take communion when you take. I think it's when you take your communion. Anyway, it's been a while. Or if you're not baptized, then you go to hell. And then if you don't believe in that certain God, you go to hell. If you don't accept Christ as your Lord, Savior, yada yada, you go to hell. Well, here's my question that I've asked a lot of Sunday school teachers and religious educators, I guess, for lack of a better term. And a question that I've never been able to get an answer to is the fact that, so you're telling me as a Christian, and the quote, the God as we call it in the Christian faith, our God, for the Western civilization that believes in our God, you're telling me that all the millions and millions of Hindus or the millions and millions of Buddhists that are just as devout, just as strict, like we have strict Southern Baptists, they're strict Buddhists, and they have their God, and they way outnumber us by a sheer volume of people. There's way more. But there's way more Buddhists and there's way more Hindus than there are Christians. And so in the Christian religion, if you don't believe in Christ, then according to them, all those other people are going to hell.
Well, it's not our fault they were born in the wrong country.
Well, yeah, but realistically, how could that be a fair and just God if you're telling me
Because
that
that's not what the
millions
Bible
and
says.
millions
No,
and
that's
millions
not what
of
the Bible
people?
says. That's what religion says.
Well, exactly. That's
They're
the
twisting it.
problem I have with it.
I mean,
Well, the news-
let's
the
be
news-
honest here. Let's be honest here. Religion made up hell. Hell doesn't exist. Nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about going to hell and burning in fire or any of that shit. It comes from the word Sheol, which is a Hebrew word which means your grave. And Constantine, who was the first to take that and twist it, and then King James twisted it again. The Bible never talks about hell. So anybody who's going to throw that around is an idiot because they've never actually read the Bible, don't know what they're talking about. But
let's not ignore the fact that the major sources, the major heads of religion, all the major organizations that control the tenets of religion from the Pope on down, they all do support the idea in the Christian faith of hell. They do support the
they're all
idea
wrong, because it's not in the Bible. So
that you have to. Well, according to them, it is.
Well, they're lying. It's not. If they did, if anybody who took one semester at college in theology and looked at in a history class can tell you where they got that word hell from. It comes from the word that's actually in the Bible, which is a Hebrew word which means your grave. That's all it means.
Right,
When you
right.
die, you
But-
go.
Well, I mean, there is one part of the Bible that does state that any man that does not accept Jesus Christ into his heart will suffer eternal damnation. Now, if you think that means
Okay, and that's the King James version of the Bible,
Yeah.
which has only been around 900 years.
yeah, but
And
what
it is-
other
it is
version are
an-
you?
the King James version of the Bible is an adaptation of the Bible, and
Well,
it's got a lot of bullshit in it. If you go
that's
back
like-
and read the original scrolls, there's a lot of stuff that is not there or that has been twisted, and there's a lot of other stuff.
Oh, yeah,
I've
but the
actually-
thing is, you can't really go back and read the
Go on
original
that-
scrolls.
yeah, exactly.
Because people like to claim that, well, if you read the original Latin, well, I was like, I hate to break it to you, the Bible wasn't originally written in Latin.
No, it wasn't.
The Bible was originally written in Greek, and those things don't exist anymore. So it's kind of hard to separate what
That's
has
my
been.
other,
but
that's
there-
my
but
other
there are
fundamental
many- there are-
disagreement is the fact that there's been so many interpretations of the Bible over hundreds of years that how do we really know at its foundation what's true and what's simply just a
Well, I mean, if we're just going by the modern Christian tenets, if we're saying what modern Christians say is true, even more so than your point of, well, then all Buddhists are going to go to hell, and Buddhists are nice, polite, friendly people for the most part.
right, exactly.
But even worse than that, what about these children that are born in Africa that live 7-8 years, never even hear about Jesus Christ, and then they die of starvation or violence, etc. Are those 10-year-olds going to hell?
Exactly, and no one's ever been able to answer that with any logic or sense because they always say, "Oh, well, that's different. That's a different thing." You can't tell me that just that our little small group of society in Western civilization are the only people that could be, that could be saved and go to, if you're just looking at it in layman's terms, heaven and hell. You're telling me that all the other people of the world and of other religions that are just as good of people as we are, that are just as devout and good people, that they're all going to hell simply because they don't believe in Jesus Christ, that they believe in Buddha?
It's not even the tenet of the religion itself that bothers me. It's the whole idea that, if you want to believe in this supreme power that's so much better than us, why do you assign him every human foible? Why is he jealous? Why is he petty? Why is he vengeful? Why does he have all these negative failings? Why, if there's actually a loving God up there that loves every single individual, why would he set this strict, arbitrary set of rules and then not let you know that he's there?
Okay, hold on. I have answers to these questions. I'd like to start first with Stone Guys, who's never been answered.
All right, go for it.
Okay, if you read Revelations, there actually is a part where sometime during the Revelation, everyone who is dead and in their shoals, their graves, will rise up and be given a second life and a second chance to repent. It's in Revelation, so all those people who die who never knew about God or anything like that are going to be brought back and given a second shot. I would have to read Revelations to figure that out exactly, but That's part of it.
Well, what do you mean given a second shot? Like if they die a Buddhist, they're going to be given a chance to say, "Oh, wait, no, Buddhist was wrong. I switched to Christianity now."
There will be, during the revelation, there will be people who.
But that's living during Armageddon. Those people are going to be being punished on Earth. So why are they being punished? Why are 10-year-old children being punished?
Okay, hold. So he's asked a question. I'm trying to give him the actual answer that I have been taught, that I've read and been taught. So they'll come back. There'll be teachers that are going to come down from heaven. There's a certain specific number it mentions and all that, and dressed in white and stuff to teach people in X number of years. And people will be given a second shot to know God, and then they'll have to decide if they do or don't. So there's different. Revelations is like a time period over 1,000 years. There are different phases of it. So that is one of the phases.
But is there only one? Is it so? But that still goes on the premise that there is only one true God, right?
Well, I mean, you asked the question about when you ask Christians and you never could get an answer. That's part of the answer to your question.
But that still goes on the premise that there's only one true God.
Yeah, and still, let's also not forget the fact where Matt was talking earlier about how some of the stuff in the New Testament and everything isn't in the actual original Bible text. Well, of course it's not. But that part, that whole rapture thing and second chances, that wasn't even in the Bibles until much more recently because they started trying to deal with stuff like that.
The closest that the original text from the stuff I've read, and trust me, this is something that I've read for 20, 30 years, okay? The closest it gets is it does talk about in Revelation. Yeah. It talks about how there will be a time where he will bring back people into a paradise on earth. It doesn't say anything about heaven or any of that stuff or burning people or bringing back everybody. Or it says there will be
fire for the devil. It does mention that.
Yeah, in the King James version it does, and that's.
Yeah, and
the King James version hasn't been around that long, comparatively speaking to how old the Bible is.
Just one more point there to that, though. It does state that when people do read the King James version, people are burning in hell at this moment. It's not like everyone's on hold waiting. I mean, the what is it, like the numbers of the sinful are choking the bowels of hell at this moment or something. So there are people that have died that are supposedly burning in hell, and if they're going to be given a second chance later, why are they burning in hell now?
Yeah. Just to point out, as far as it, you have to understand, I mean, the King James version of the Bible was written specifically to make King James the one and only vessel with which people could get any sort of absolution through God. He tried to make himself essentially people had to worship him as though he were God because he was the one that they had to come to him. They had to serve him. They had to all praise him because he had the direct connection to God. That's why he had them write a Bible that, for one, took out all mentions of God's name and just put Lord or whatever, so that it was just this force that well, you knew who King James was, so you obeyed him. I mean, so if you're talking about anything that comes out of the King James Bible, you have to take it with a grain of salt and realize it was a king that wanted people to worship him. And he wrote the Bible accordingly. He rewrote the way he wanted it to fit his agenda.
Well, we also got to remember that the versions before the King James were written by people who wanted to demonize the Roman Empire and wanted to demonize the Greek
Empire. I'm not.
So, yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying that you have to take that kind of stuff into consideration before you just say blanketly, oh, well, this one is exactly what it says is exactly what it means. I mean, to really understand this stuff, most people need a college course in history to learn a lot of this stuff. I mean, I
took religious studies in college for 2 years just because it was so interesting, and we got to.
There's a lot to learn in it, and it's a lot of stuff that most people don't know. They just take the word of their pastor or whatever, and you hope that you're getting the good information.
And I'll tell you one thing that people think is odd. When I took religious studies in college, I took it for 2 years. People think that only religious people take religious studies. I think there were 9 males and like 12 females in my class. Out of the 12 females, 2 of them were atheists. Out of the 9 men, 7 of them were atheists.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way our president was a constitutional lawyer, and yet he tries to rip it apart. So, know thine enemy. But, Yankee, you said something a moment ago. What was it? Oh, about God having human traits. Am I on?
Yeah,
we're listening.
Sorry, y'all are all quiet. It freaked me out. One of the things I find interesting like I read the Bible like over 3 years front to back. It took a long time because I didn't like do it all the time. But anyway, one of the things I noticed is a lot of people have this thing where they try to combine God and Jesus into the same personality construct. They're like, oh, it's the Holy Trinity, it's all the same. And it's like, no, if you really read the Old Testament, God was not like Jesus a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, Old Testament God and Jesus are two very distinct personality differences. More like a father and son type, and God was patient, but finally he'd get fed up and mad, and he'd take his anger out on them and stuff. And that's something Jesus really didn't ever do. He was more peace and love all the time. So that's one of the big problems is we live in a society now. If you went back 200 years, preachers would talk about hellfire, damnation, burning minions and stuff. They would talk about the wrath of God, and now they just talk about Jesus and love. They don't talk about the wrath of God, really, in many religions in Christianity.
Well, see, and I hear people talk all the time about how, because you're right, nowadays most of the
Wait, you're all
Christians,
Baptists and you all don't hear people talk about the wrath of God?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that
not like you used to.
Christian
No.
religion right now in America, the mainstream Christian religion is very politically correct and
Oh,
leaning.
yeah, it's all about, yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because most of them nowadays they almost ignore the first half of the Bible. They almost completely just ignore it and not talk about it unless they just find a specific verse that happens to suit, that sermon, or whatever it is. They kind of leave it off, and I hear people use that a lot. That like that's the one thing I've heard a lot is people say, well, see, you don't even believe in half the Bible, because if you did, you'd see how you think God is love, but He's not. He's all this and that, and I it doesn't affect me at all, but no, because I mean if you look at it, I compare it to just being again, whether you believe it or not, that's your call. But if you're going to look at the first and second half of the Bible, and why is it changed from 1 minute to the next as soon as Jesus shows up? It's like any parent. What do you do with your kids up until they're about 10 years old when they screw up? You spank their ass, right? You punish them. And then after they get to a certain age, you're like, look, all right, I've done everything I can. You're on your own. I've told you what I want you to do. I've told you how to act. If you screw up, it's on you, and there will be consequences in the end. But I'm not going to spank you. I'm not going to ground you anymore. You're too old for that.
Right.
This is what it is.
Okay, but besides all that,
I actually pretty much thought it was just Jesus fucked that guy's wife, and then they had a carpenter who was pretty much a slacker. Looked like a.
Besides all that, we're arguing semantics based on the fact that we're still saying that there's only one true God, and that's the fundamental disagreement I have with religion. I don't think there's any way that there could only be one God.
Well, I don't think you're saying there's multiple gods. I'm thinking you're saying that you don't adhere to any one group of people's definition of God.
Exactly, because
that makes more sense.
That's the problem. We're in a
so you would be along the lines of saying, well, the God that everybody prays to is probably all the same God if He is real. They just all choose to worship Him in different ways based on their beliefs.
Well, am
I understanding that correctly?
Well, and if you want to tear it down to the roots, and let's say that there's got to be a reason if you look at humans and in this world and in the microorganisms and single-celled amoebas that created life.
Ben Carson said that the devil created the theory of evolution to fool rational people.
Right. So who knows? Who knows how life got started? But if there was a God that created man, that created Earth, and all the stories that we're told in Christianity, as far as took 6 days and on the seventh day He rested, and all that shit, and created Earth or created the world, then I still say there's if that's one God.
what I think you're trying to say is that you believe that there might be a supreme being, there might be a higher power, but
Right.
no people on Earth have correctly defined him yet, or
There
it
you go.
yet.
That's a good way to put it, because there again, it's naive to think that a very small percentage of Christians would be correct, and that the very large percentage of Buddhists or Hindus, or plug in your other religions here, are completely wrong. That would be very naive to say that Christians are the only ones that have gotten it right and all other people are wrong. I
Well, that's what
I
every
can't get
religion
behind
says.
that.
All the
But
religions
yeah, the
say that about
Muslims
theirs.
say that, the Jews say that, every religion
Everybody
says
says
that
that.
everyone else is wrong and we're right. The Mormons say that, everyone says it.
And that's what I don't, and I think that's the most fundamental
But you have to say
objection
that
I
as a
have.
religion. As a religion, you have to say that. If you want to protect your religion, you can't say other religions might be right too, because then what holds people to your doctrines, what keeps people under your thumb? They have to think that if I abandon this religion, I'm going to be suffering for eternity, or else they won't stay with your religion.
Yeah, and see,
So,
that's the problem I have. Who are they trying to scare into being to staying in their religion? It's a bunch of fear mongering, and that's what brings me back to the fact when I said that religion is a security blanket. It's just a security blanket for insecure people to have an intangible
well,
being
I
to
don't want
pray.
to I don't want to discount the aspects of religion that are, it is a unifying blanket for people that want to do good to come under, and a 10,000 people with $1 apiece can do more good than together than they can separately.
Right,
You know,
right. But I'm glad you say that, because that's a great caveat to the whole point of the reason I brought this up, is the fact that you also, and you're a prime example of this, Yankee, and I hope you don't mind me getting personal here, but the fact that you're a prime example of a good person who has adopted children, who has is, play it up and joke all you want, but you can tell that at your root you are a good person who is very caring, who has compassion, and obviously it takes a good person to do what you did and adopt children and and go that route. And you're an atheist. So
either
that
that or I
tells
just
you right
got sick of taking the garbage out.
so that tells you right there that you don't have to be a God-fearing religious person to be a good person in this world. And that's the problem I have with just the general populace, and is the fact that if you don't go to church, if you're not part of religion,
Well,
if you
here's
don't
one.
pray to God, then you're looked at, there's such a negative connotation associated with atheist or agnostic,
Well,
that
here's one
you're looked
aspect of
at like you're a fucking
Well, here's
some
one
kind of.
aspect of religion. I mean, here's one aspect of it, and this is not something I'm saying to slam it or saying it's a tenet of the religion. It's just a reality of the religion. One of the things that has the most effect on whether you're a religion or not is there's two things that have the most effect on whether you are religious or not: how much money you make and how educated you are. The more money you have, the far less you become exponentially less likely to be practicing religious. If you have more education, you become exponentially less likely to be practicing any religion. So religion has become the bastion of the poor and downtrodden to a degree, and these people are by nature looking for something to make themselves feel better. So religion makes them feel better, and that's good. But then, unfortunately, you also have people that take it to the other point of they use it to make themselves feel superior. Like, I
Exactly.
might have dropped out of the ninth grade and work at McDonald's, but I'm better than those people across that lesbian couple across the street because they're sinners and they're going to burn in hell.
Exactly, because I go to church every Sunday and they're atheists, so they're going to hell, and I'm a better person. Bullshit. That's what I'm saying, and that's why I used you in specific as an example of someone that is a very vocal atheist, but yet is a good person. And there's tons of people like you in this world that are atheists or agnostic, like myself, that are good people, that would live and conform to the outward teachings of a quote unquote religious organization, as far as, like you said, just having basic morality. but don't fit into that stereotype of
I don't want to.
of a Catholic or a Baptist or a Methodist. You know, I could be a good person without being
And I don't want
religious.
to pretend that most religious people are hateful because, like I say, I grew up in West Virginia and Alabama, and I know a lot of poor people that are both very religious and not religious. You'd be surprised how many rednecks aren't religious. And I know great people from both groups. The vast majority of people that are religious are awesome people. The vast majority of people that are atheists are awesome people. There's dickheads in every group. And unfortunately, in the religious arenas, a lot of the dickheads rise to power because they say things that the angry people want to hear.
Right, but don't you agree with the fact of
Oh, it's
the
bullshit that you judge somebody's morality by whether they accept whether they accept
exactly.
the fact that there's an invisible being in the sky that controls their life.
Exactly, and that's the problem I have with it. And we're judged, you know, and not too much because I don't. This is probably the first time I've ever talked about it. I'm not someone that is vocal about my religious beliefs. I just feel like it's my business and I don't share it with people. I don't. But I'm also, you know, you have those people that talk about church and they talk about how they're going to pray and they're going, and it's like they're almost trying to convince themselves, on an everyday basis that, oh well, I'm going to church Sunday, and then after church, and it's like they go out of their way to make sure that you hear them say they're going to church. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Okay, hold
what
on.
does that have to do with anything?
Stone guy. So I'm completely agreeing with you guys. There are a ton of judgmental jerkwads in the religious community, and it makes everyone who's not in the religious community not want to be a part of the religious community. There are worst enemies, ourselves not following the correct teachings, which you're being judgmental, you're talking bad about people, you're telling them they're going to go to hell. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to talk about it. Even Jesus said, look at the Pharisees that go and fast and pray in front of everyone. They should be doing that behind closed doors. You know, that's been going on forever, and it's the hypocrites that ruin it for everyone.
Fundamentalist is the word I usually use.
Yeah. And then on as far as atheist goes, I've never met a dumb atheist. Atheists are always highly intelligent with like 120 and up IQs.
Let me be the first.
Always college educated, if not master degrees or doctors. Every atheist I've ever met has been like that. Or they're just so smart they dropped out of college because they were bored with it. Again, every atheist I know is way up on the intelligence scale. So,
and after you're done, Dan was able to jump back in. So Dan,
sorry,
I don't know if you've been
I
able
didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No,
just
no,
you're
you're
talking about
good.
dumb atheist. Hey, how you doing?
Were you able to listen to any of the show, Dan?
I just grabbed the last couple of things that Nate was saying, Nathan's Armory. Which, by the way, hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
Well, the general, just to catch you up slightly, is the general premise or the gist of it now. Where I was going was the fact that how we are. When I say we, I meant atheist agnostics. How we're so prejudged by society simply based on the fact that we're not practicing a religion, but we could be and are just as good of people as someone that goes to church every Sunday.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I mean, I don't get my morals from the church, and I was raised in a Lutheran Christian church, which I felt was always very moderate compared to like other kids I knew growing up that went to like Southern Baptist or Catholic churches that were like real like, strict in the rules. Ours was pretty much like try not to kill anybody and you're good. But no, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, my morals don't come from the religion. It comes from within, I feel like, don't be a cunt is pretty much the, like, general rule of life.
Right. Well, no, but it's sad, and I guess you could carry or draw a comparison to this in a lot of aspects, even with gun ownership. Let's tie this back into 2A for a minute. With the Second Amendment, it seems like we're all vilified as gun owners of being crazy, like anti-government, redneck, hillbilly preppers that are waiting to, kill someone or overthrow the government because
Minus the
we
hillbilly, that describes me perfectly in a nutshell, though.
you know what I mean?
Get to the lie.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and you can, and so it's a very personal subject when you think about us as gun owners and agnostic or atheist on top of that. So now we've got like a double whammy on society where they're like, oh my God, you don't believe in God and you carry a gun? You must be some crazy, nut job. What's wrong with you?
I gotta be honest, I was really shocked when you said that you were agnostic. I'm like, holy crap! I'm not like, I haven't been out as like agnostic atheist. Like, people ask me over the years. I'm like, yeah, I'm agnostic. Before that, I'd say I was deist. Like, where I didn't really like put it into words. I just always was like, I was a deist. I just didn't know it.
See, I don't believe in agnostics. Like, a lot of people don't believe in bisexuals. I say pick a fucking side, because you either believe or you don't. So.
Well, yeah, agnostic technically is a knowledge position, not a belief position. But I did claim the agnostic position because I was afraid of the atheist position, in the sense of like, oh, if I say I'm atheist, that's
the connotation associated with it. Well, so Yankee.
The best thing about accepting the atheist mantra, which I have, and the mantle of atheism, is that every time someone who wants to argue with you, when they say the Bible says, you can be like, who gives a fuck what the Bible says?
Yeah.
Well, Yankee, given the fact that you've kind of heard my position and my stance and how I kind of think, what would you consider me? Because maybe I'm not familiar enough with this whole process to understand what I even am.
I think you might just want to go. You might want to look into religions like Baha'i and Deism and things like that, because the fact that you believe in a higher power, that you believe that a higher power does exist, would not clearly make you agnostic. Because the agnostic position is one of saying, I'm not going to take position on whether one exists or not, because I don't have enough
information. An agnostic just says it could be, it could not be. I'm basically going to just say, whatever happens, happens.
An agnostic is just the position of knowledge. It just means
agnostics agnostics are just lazy Christians that don't want to go to church.
I disagree, but yeah.
But as a full-blown atheist, I don't believe in any higher power. I don't feel the need to believe that there's something out there greater than us. There might be aliens that are more advanced than us, but I don't need to feel that there's this aspect of my life that I don't have control of, or that I can blame bad things on, or, I don't need that in my life. I don't feel that need, and I don't like when other people do it. I see sometimes as a weakness. Whenever someone says, "Oh, the devil did this or the devil did that," I'm like, "No, motherfucker, the devil didn't do anything. Either you did it or some other weak asshole did it." And so, not believing in that higher power, I can't believe in an afterlife. That's the worst part about being an atheist, is because I would love to believe that, that I'm not going to be dead in 45 years and that I could have a life after this. I would love to believe that, but I just can't.
Yeah.
I would love to believe that I'm going to see my grandmother again someday, that raised me from the time I was born until I was 12 years old. But, I just know I'm not going to. And so being an atheism comes with a lot of fucking baggage. And to me, Christianity is just the refusal to accept some baggage, or the desire to not accept some baggage, however you want to look at it.
I agree with
I would disagree in that I know a lot of Christians who believing what they believe is more of is more baggage than if they didn't.
It's cultural for a lot of people.
I guess it depends on the person.
I don't see that at all. I don't see. I know Christians love to believe that they're being persecuted because they pretend that someone saying, "Please keep your dog in your yard," is somehow persecution. That's not persecution. If you've
I don't know anything about persecution, but just the fact that you have somebody who believes that at any time, the world's going to freaking end.
No, but they think but they don't think that's going to be a bad thing. They think that's a joyous thing, that they're going to heaven.
You would think so. You would think so, but I know a lot of Christians who are ultimately terrified.
Well, then they don't believe.
They're questioning it.
They don't believe. If they don't believe it's going to be the way it's supposed to be, they don't believe. It's like, I've never understood, how this Pope travels around with no bulletproof cage. I've never understood why the last Pope did. What's wrong with you, pussy? Are you a sinner? Do you think you're not going to go to heaven if you get killed? If I was the Pope and I was a shoe-in for heaven, I'd be like walking around with a bullet sign on, with a bullet target on my testament. Because I'd be like, I want to go to heaven and, play frisbee tag all day long, or whatever the fuck it is Catholics do in heaven. So I've never understood that whole desire to stay in a world of pain and suffering if you actually believe that there's a higher, better place. That'd be like me deciding to live in a trailer even if I owned a house on the east side.
Stone Guy, I got a question for you.
What's up?
So your position, you believe in a higher power, but your knowledge beyond that is just you don't know, or like
Well, and I guess I don't know. I guess in a sense I do kind of believe in a higher. Maybe I don't know. I really don't even know if I believe in a higher power, so to speak. But I know that there's not just.
Okay, I think this chat needs to turn into a battle for Stone Guy's soul between the atheists and the Christians.
Yeah, well, and the whole thing was the fact that there's way more Buddhists, there's way more
Muslims
and Hindus than there are Christians, but yet our Christians, from what we're told and what we're raised as children, is that if you're not a Christian and you don't believe in the Christian God, then you're all going to hell and you're wrong.
Wager. That's Pascal's wager in a nutshell. Basically, we could all be wrong, we could all be right. What if the Muslims are right and all the Christians are wrong? What if
exactly. That's the problem I have, is that I don't believe, I think it's very naive for Christians to say that they're the only ones that are right and everybody else is wrong.
Well, that's Pascal's wager, basically, in a nutshell, is more or less, it's like, what if the Muslims are right and the Christians are wrong, or vice versa, or the Jews were right and Jesus was never really the Messiah or even existed? My position for the longest was deism, because I was like, yeah, I think something created everything, but it doesn't really care, and there's no supernatural BS. It just, it made the universe, whatever, made the universe, the higher power did some stuff, but that's it. It just kind of went, good luck to you, and then it's just sitting back and watching us destroy ourselves. And then I went to like agnostic, where I was like, I don't even know if there's really that. And I didn't realize like agnostic by itself is technically just the position of knowledge and not the belief. Because I'm like, well, if I had to be honest, I'd say, yeah, I don't believe because I don't believe. Because you either do or you don't. And then, basically atheism, I always thought was just that, I always was afraid, I guess, of Gnostic atheism, which was, there is no God, I have proof of this, or I have knowledge of this, and that's the end of the conversation for most of them. Where I'm more like, I'm agnostic atheist, in the sense I don't believe, but if I'm open to proof. If there's proof, I will hear it and I will test it, so on and so forth. I just haven't been shown the evidence yet. I'll embrace it if the evidence is there.
It's called hedging your bets.
Well, it's just a position of ignorance. I just don't know, and therefore I can't believe in something I don't know for sure really is a thing. I mean,
right, and that's a good way. Yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it. It's like
I can't commit to saying there's this when I really just don't know, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I'd rather.
I definitely don't believe in the fact of some something out there that can change the physical world, change your physical
free will or not,
Right. Like, I don't think that praying real hard is going to make someone pull through a horrible accident, or you know what I mean? Like, that's
win a football game.
The thing that
someone
always
with a
starving kid.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. That's a misconception anyway. Because I mean, where is it that outside of Jesus performing miracles? I mean, where is it? Who's the one telling you that you can pray and get something you want? It's
religion.
It's pastors. It's
No.
All the Bible says was, you can unload your burden on God by telling him what's wrong, and He'll help you work through it.
Well, the Bible
He's going to magically give you whatever you want.
Yeah, the Bible never really specifies. At least I
mean, anybody who thinks that you can just pray and get what you want is an idiot.
Well, there are texts that do say God will reward the faithful and punish.
Yeah, but it does not say you can pray with what you want and I'll give it to you. Then there's never once does He say that.
Well, no, it does imply that there are parts of the Bible that say, no. I'm answering what Nathan said. There are parts of the Bible that says nations that follow God will prosper on earth, and those that don't will not. So there are indications in the Bible that He does reward people on earth.
Specifically talking about God's kingdom.
Hold on. It's the whole what's his name? What's his name? Not Abel. The guy who had his entire family killed and the devil was Jack.
Job,
yeah. It's the whole story of Job.
It's bullshit, but anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. Back in Old Testament times, there was a faithful reward program, and still people screwed up. Then there were times when there were miracles shown, And people still screwed up. So people always say, I need to see proof. The people who saw the proof, it didn't help.
Well, here's the thing, though, to me, and this is something my mother always told me when I was younger, and my mother is a very religious woman. She's a deaconess, if you know what a deaconess is. It's like some churches will give deaconess positions to women because they can't be technically deacons. She's the treasurer of her church. She's a deaconess, and she's very big into it, but she always taught me growing up that a good person does not need a book to tell them how to be good. And also, if a person is only good to garner reward by going to heaven, then they are not good. And if they only do not do evil for fear of punishment, then they are still evil.
And brother, I tell you, that man is a piece of shit. And that's a whole nother quote. But yeah, that's pretty. I mean, most Bible-believing modern churches have evolved to that point where they're like, yeah, you can't just be like, I'm a Christian, I'm doing good stuff, and boom, I'm going to heaven. Nothing I can. I mean, as long as I ask for forgiveness for doing that bad stuff, I'm good. I agree that most modern churches, I would say in America anyway, the majority of modern Christian churches, I would say in my experience, again, I could be wrong as far as the numbers, but they seem to preach that basically being good for the sake of an eternal reward is not how you get the eternal reward. At least that's the way I was taught when I was a theist.
Yeah, most of them do teach that.
There's two ideas. The one is good works. There's a whole lot of Christian religions that believe in good works, and that's if you're 50% good, you're going to heaven type thing. And the other ones, like mine, isn't necessarily good works, although they're encouraged. It's repentance and belief in Jesus and his teachings and saying you're sorry and then trying to live a faithful life. That's how you go to heaven. You know you're going to fail. It's not a scorecard.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's basically the way the church I went to when I was growing up. My dad's a minister as well, and then
you got Muslims that think that if they eat a piece of pork are going to hell automatically. I mean, there are Muslims that believe that.
And Jews, yeah.
Even if they do it by accident. Well, actually, the Jews, if they do that, they have a set of ways to
They can atone for it. They can purify themselves. Yeah. The
Muslims don't got an atonement for
it. Muslim is a whole nother bag of crazy. I'm sorry. I just FYI to anybody listen. Anybody who talks about, and I'm not. I know Yankee, you did a video a while back, which I absolutely loved, about how ISIS isn't Islam. And I was like, all of that, yes, because people are so apologetic for Muslims, but yet they're like, fuck Christianity, and it's just like, whoa.
I like how they're apologetic for Muslims, and they're like, that's not the majority of Muslims, and then they totally ignore that all the Pew Research shows that between 91 and 97% of all people in the major Muslim-run countries believe in Sharia law and believe it's
90% of people polled in Egypt in 2011 asked if murder was the appropriate response to leaving the faith. 90% said yes in Egypt.
So that's not a radical minority.
No, it's absolutely not. And it's just, I was really happy to see somebody who I was like familiar with on YouTube like, yes, that's those things. I shared that because I'm like, my dad's even a bit of an apologetic for Islam. I'm like, why?
Well, people like to treat religion as if it's race. They think, we'll be a racist if I criticize someone's religion. Religion is not a race. It is not something you're born with. It is an idea. It is a conscious construct. It is an opinion. And you are allowed to criticize people's opinions, especially if they are violent or stupid. Saying you have to respect someone's religion is like saying you have to respect racism.
Well, okay, so I want to say this also. I view a person who is religious yet does terrible things in the name of that religion to be far worse than any atheist who leaves people alone.
Well, yeah, and you had made a comment earlier about...
I'm talking about, what are they called, the something Baptist church, those crazy people who go out to...
Westboro, nut job.
I mean, they just make me sick. I mean, and it's like, what they're doing, and you're like going, did y'all read anything in the Bible whatsoever? Y'all are even past Old Testament kookiness. Just blows me away.
One thing I wanted to say to you real quick, Nathan, is you had made a comment before you went to before you BRB'd, and I just wanted to say about the intelligence and atheism and stuff, and not to make in jest, but my IQ did not go up when I all of a sudden decided that I just didn't believe and I accepted labeling myself agnostic atheist. So I have a real beef with certain atheists, not anybody that I know personally or here, but some that you see in the mainstream that basically question the intelligence of theists. I can't stand that because I didn't suddenly get smarter when I became an atheist, and therefore I can't get behind people who are not like criticizing what you said. I'm just saying that like
the
there are
hateful
atheists.
atheists.
Like what's that?
The hateful atheists.
Yeah, the more just the ones that make fun of theists. That their entire YouTube career is based on basically dogging on theists.
I don't think most of the big ones do that. Like if you read like
Underfoot.
like if you listen to like Sam, what's his name? Oh God, I'm blanking on all my names now. Wrote the Ghost in the Machine. Sam Harrison.
Sam
What's
Harris?
the guy wrote this? What's the guy wrote the Ghost in the Machine? Carl
Sam
Sagan.
Harris?
Sagan.
Carl Sagan. If you read Carl Sagan's book, he obliterates religion, but he's not disrespectful of religious people. He's disrespectful of the idea that they.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Things. Yeah.
It's the you're.
Now
dumb
he does say
this.
you are stupid if you go out and do these things to people and still try to claim that you're religious. But
yeah, I don't mind that. If somebody criticizes the religion itself and not so much the individual, like okay, I guess like if somebody sits there and is like, you know what, because Islam does this, or because Christianity's done that, or because Judaism's done this, that's one thing. But if you're like you're dumb because you believe in creationism, that's where I'm like, okay, they're not dumb. They just have a different view. They have a different belief, and we can't like. I feel like anyway, just that as an agnostic, mouthful, agnostic atheist, that it's a good thing to criticize their intelligence. Instead, make the case for evolution. Make the case for the advantage. I wouldn't even mind if a theist, which my dad, I'm working on him so much on the evolution thing, but you know. Look,
I don't think that. I think most of the bigger names are very good at distinguishing
majority
ignorance from stupidity.
I was looking at more like
a person can be ignorant without being stupid.
Well, hold on real quick. Sean just jumped in and he swears he's gonna set us all straight. So let's hear it, Sean.
Yeah. What's up,
Look,
Sean?
first of all, I grew up in a household where my folks were like, you can test the waters and choose what you want to choose. We're not going to force you to choose what you want to choose. Furthermore, you cannot be an agnostic and an atheist. That is a contradiction of terms. You either believe in something or you don't. An atheist does not believe in something. An agnostic believes in something unexplainable. So don't tell me that you're going to be one and the other. You can be one or the other, but you cannot be one and the other. I've read the Bible.
I think I already said. I think I already said that.
Shintoism. There is no way that you can be both. You can be one or the other.
No, a Gnostic and an agnostic are positions of knowledge. They're not positions of belief.
Well, see, I don't even like I said earlier. I don't even believe in agnostics, and I know I don't think you can be both because I don't even believe in agnostics.
You can't be both because one contradicts the other. One believes in a supreme being that is not yet defined, and the other one believes that you are here for a finite time and make the best of your situation. You know, I live in a block where there are 7 different types of churches of 7 different religions within 1 square mile of each other. I've been to every single house, and I've asked the same single question to every leader who drives a BMW or a Bentley or a fucking Cadillac. And I asked them, I'm like, listen, let me ask you, I've had family members die. I've had people in the military that were my brothers die. I've had friends in the military that have died. Am I going to see my dogs and my friends and my family in heaven someday? And they're like, well, you're going to see your friends. I'm like, what about my dogs? They're a living being under the same world that God created. And not a single fucking one of them told me likewise. They were like, well, God only takes care of people. And that's bullshit.
I'm sure there's at least one religion that believes in monkey heaven.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I disagree with the agnostic versus atheist. I don't. That one is not. They're not the same thing at all. Like atheist is the belief system, agnostic is the knowledge position.
Atheism is the definition of a lack of belief. It is just you are here, make the best of it.
Yeah, but that's
and
all
don't hurt your
atheist
fellow
means is
man.
belief.
But agnosticism, by definition, says you believe in a higher power that has yet to be defined by man, because man would be ignorant and arrogant to define something that is beyond their comprehension.
No, but agnostic is
agnosticism
just means just without knowledge. That's all agnostic actually means. It's not a position of belief or non-belief at all. It's to define your belief or unbelief. An agnostic theist can exist just like an agnostic atheist can, versus a Gnostic.
That's like saying a racist and a non-racist is the same human being. That's
No, there's just that's the same word being used in contradiction of
My
itself.
mother is an agnostic. She believes in something that she cannot explain. I respect her for decision. I try not to convince her otherwise. However, when she tries to tell me there is a God, she knows good and goddamn well that I cannot believe it, because every single scripture of every single text of every single religion that I've spent the last 36 years of my life educating myself on tells me that there is a scientific explanation for every, quote, miracle in every single text.
Well, we
There's
agree
an
on
explanation
that.
for it now.
But as far as the agnostic, it sounds like your mom's maybe more of a deist than she is an agnostic.
She believes
an
in something
agnostic.
that she can't explain, and I
Sean,
have to
what do
respect her
you-
for it.
Are you atheist, Sean?
Unfortunately, I am, but I have tried. I've put my
Now,
feet
you
in the
sound
water.
No,
like
don't
every
be
religion I could possibly get my hands into.
apologetic for it.
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
he's
don't be
apologetic. I
apologetic
think
for
he wishes he could believe in something.
I wish I could, but every single thing logic dictates tells
I
me
feel the same
otherwise.
You sound more like a Gnostic atheist, though, and not. Whereas, like,
No,
I'm an
I
agnostic.
don't believe in a higher power. I
No,
believe that I'm here for a finite amount of time
agnostic
and
is
to
in
make the
a
best of my
space
situation.
Gnostic, not agnostic. A space Gnostic. Gnostic meaning with knowledge. You're basically saying that there is no God, and that's your position of knowledge as well as your belief. Whereas
I'm one
my
of those
position
I'll
is I
believe it when
can't.
I can see it type of folks.
Well, that's probably
Nothing
more
proves
agnostic
me there's
atheist,
something
because
there.
a deist sounds like what your mom might be falling into more as far as terms of words and definitions. Now, before I will quote Jerry DeWitt with this one, but this is basically the way that when people get the whole agnostic atheist thing kind of mixed up, is skepticism is my nature, free thought is my methodology, agnosticism is my conclusion, atheism is my opinion, and humanitarianism is my motivation.
Oh, I like you.
Somewhere you got to
great.
squeeze in what stops most people from thinking what I thought was religion, and then you gotta stick philosophy in there somewhere.
I have a theory. I have a very good theory.
I like Sean. He's good. I like this guy.
In the beginning of time, okay, man, by definition, was very ignorant of his surroundings, of the world around him, okay? But before he found fire, before he invented anything, before the Neanderthal became modern human and learned how to use tools, he knew nothing. So, as he started to progress in society and life and evolution, he started to understand the world around him. But for everything he could not understand, he wanted to card catalog and explain to others that this is probably what is happening in the world around us. There's no explanation to say otherwise, so just take me for my word. And he was convincing enough to get other people to believe him, and so began religion. He convinced others of an explanation of something that science could not prove because science didn't exist at the time. This is how Jesus created Christianity. This is how Christianity began. This is how Islam began.
And what did that do? That stifled.
It gave an explanation to something that people had no explanation
Have you ever
to.
seen the
Right,
movie-
and
gave
it stopped
mental
them from
comfort.
searching
Hold on.
further for a real explanation.
Imagine this. If David Koresh was not killed by the DEA, 2,000 years from now, if enough people believed what he believed in, that would be considered a religion 2,000 years from now. It's the exact same story of Jesus Christ preaching what he believed in, and guess what? He died for it too, because someone didn't agree with him, and he was
Right.
killed for it. But
Okay,
enough.
I'm gonna jump to
Well, hold on, real quick.
And it's-
No, I was about to say we're going to have to wrap this up, but I'm going to get final closing
Sorry, I joined
thoughts.
so late, by the way.
No problem, brother. We might have to do a continuation, but
Hell yeah.
so let's get some closing thoughts. It's been great. It's been a great chat. I appreciate everybody that tuned in and stayed with us. But go ahead, Nathan, and finish your thought, and then anybody just briefly.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna jump over to Yankees chat. Bless all your hearts, and y'all can go to hell, and y'all probably will.
I'll save you a glass of ice water.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, that's I gotta go do my the thing at Yankee. But anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody on the panel. I appreciate
TPG.
everybody that tuned in. Sean, awesome thoughts. We'll definitely continue this. I think this was a good chat, a good topic, and I think there's definitely more to talk about. So stay tuned,
Sean,
guys.
dude, hit me up on the YouTubes. I like what you were saying, so you know.
I will do. Don't forget your DPG.
Yep, and daily patch giveaway. Go to gunchannels.com/DPG daily patch giveaway, and unfortunately, I haven't been watching the YouTube side of this, but let's pick someone from Gun Channels.
Oh, dude, I hit that hard before I joined. The
Actually, you know what? I'm giving it to Dan.
That's all right.
Dan, go to Gun Channels /DPG. Fill out the form, and you get to pick a patch, man. So check it out.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the website as you're mentioning.
Gunchannels.com. It's an awesome place. We talk about it all the time. So for all of you that watch in the future, please go check out gunchannels.com. It's a great community, and that's it, man. I appreciate it, and we'll
Yeah, we
see
gotta
you
do
next
this
time.
sometime.
Absolutely.